Time for our first panel discussion of the day, the Cloud Leaders Forum, and we certainly have three cloud leaders to speak to today. Let's meet our guests. So first of all, let's welcome back Richard Simon, Chief Technology Officer at T-Systems, who joined us a few moments ago. We have Andre Vieira, Operations Intelligence Officer Lead at Celfocus, and Samer Geissah, Director Technology Strategy at TELUS. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us for the first panel discussion of Cloud and 5G Live.
A pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we've got a lot to get through, so I'll start with a nice open question. I'll start with you, Samer, if I can, and then we'll work our way through the panel. For you, what are the biggest challenges facing cloud leaders today? And secondly, we'll get on to how can they overcome them?
It's a really good question, because I think the challenge with going through the cloud journey is actually starts really with the state of mind of the organization. There's a lot of planning and a lot of studying. The benefits are very clear, but you won't get to see those benefits unless you actually go through the journey. So this requires a mindset change to begin with, and then once you get over the mindset change internally, it is actually fairly rewarding, and our approach has been to start with some of the easy applications that are sort of like lift and shift. So you start to get the elasticity advantage, you get the resiliency advantage of running those applications on the cloud. And then from there, we started to tackle the more larger, more complex, anchor systems that we basically depend on for providing connectivity to Canadians in Canada, but also globally through our various TELUS organizations. So I think the mindset change is a good one, but once you start getting into it, there's a lot of best practices that we found that we had to execute in order to become more efficient and faster, and that again helps us provide a more resilient, secure, and private service to our customers.
Yeah, so that mindset shift is the first step. Andre Vieira, I'll come to you next. The biggest challenges facing cloud leaders at the moment?
Well, right now, I think the vision is clear to everyone that we should move to the cloud, and I think the presentation also, Richard, put some numbers on top of it. Right now, I think the biggest challenge is in terms of innovation, and now things are evolving. Looking at the industry, for instance, for the telecom operators, we don't see the innovation that was supposed to happen. So we see that needs to be the sharing of knowledge, the openness of the network, and we all win with this openness. We all win if we join forces to tackle this horizontal challenge. This will not prejudice, of course, the competition. This will foster who will join these forces. An example for this is a project that is Silva. That's exactly that. That is for the fragmentation of the cloud, and to do this homogenization. By sharing and collaborating, we all win.
Okay, Richard, I'll come to you last on that one. The biggest challenges.
Well, I think there's enormous challenges. I kind of touched on them a little bit in my presentation earlier today. I think the biggest one is optimization while still fostering innovation. I think that's the difficulty, really kind of a balancing act between continuing the current sort of operations and the journey into cloud, as Samer said, and also the doing that in a sort of an optimized way as much as possible. There's enormous challenges, I think, there in terms of how we utilize cloud, but how do we do that in a sort of a cost-effective way? I think the pandemic has probably shown that some of the IT sort of challenges that we had around that time, where really IT projects actually accelerated. They didn't slow down or stop during the pandemic. They actually accelerated in order to enable a mobile workforce and various other reasons. But obviously that has caused a little bit of a backlash in terms of costs of cloud and so on. So the optimization, sort of cloud costs and things like that are the the areas that everybody's looking at. Certainly have been for the last sort of 12 months or so. So that kind of fine balance, I think, is the thing. How do we continue sort of the innovation, but also do it in an optimized way?
Well, there's plenty of points to dig into from all of your answers there, and I'll come to the one about culture first, because there's the push and the demand for people to develop a cloud first mindset, which sounds fantastic. It looks fantastic in an email. It sounds fantastic in a training session. How do we actually deliver that within an organization from a leadership point of view to make sure people are really adopting that culture? And I'll put that up to all of you.
I think one of the first steps is to explain the benefits. I think we found that our employees were hesitant to begin with to adopt this culture, but working through smaller, easy to shift applications, and then reaping the benefits of this elasticity, resiliency, pay-as-you-grow models, and then there's a whole untapped area of benefits that we're starting to. We've been doing some really good work, the data monetization in terms of the data classification, the protection, that immediately turns the mindsets around saying, oh, guess what? I can do things much faster. I can do things more resiliently. I get a better customer experience. And I think one of the winning factors is that it is replicable. It is something that you can replicate and copy to other ecosystems. It is not easy once you tackle some of the legacy systems. They're very complex, and moving them, containerizing them, shifting them may be a challenge to begin with. But once that's done, the benefits are actually the best outcome, and it's the most convincing outcome for our employees to actually adopt that ecosystem and go through the training and certifications required to be sort of certified as a cloud architect or a cloud developer.
If I can come in, I would probably say if you're kind of going to go in that direction and sort of you have set that sort of strategy, you really do need an entity within the organization that will really sort of drive and set that strategy. So whether you call that a competency center or a cloud center of excellence, you really do need that, and that team needs to be endorsed by the C-level so that it can actually have power to make decisions and for the organization to go in the direction of that decision. The Cloud Center of Excellence has a number of different tasks, everything from sort of setting the cloud strategy to setting the roadmap of how you sort of progress the cloud strategy, to doing things like assessments of applications, as I think Samer mentioned about migration. Where do those applications get migrated to? Having a data strategy as part of that. And as I said earlier, implementing some kind of sort of cost management, sort of a FinOps approach, if you like, to help. So for me, it starts really with the CCOE.
If I jump in, I agree with all of these. We need to have the executive buy-in, so this is coming from top down, and this will enable for the leadership and the middle management to lead by example and to help people to adopt the cloud. And of course, we need training, but we need also people to support the teams because this is complex. This is ever changing. The cloud that we have today, it's not the same that we had 2 or 3 years ago. So we need this constantly support. And I totally agree that a center of excellence or a CCOE, it's mandatory to have on this, but they need also to be close to the delivery teams. Otherwise, and some examples that we see, the CCOE is on an ivory tower that have the strategy, have the architecture, but it's very far from the delivery. So also to put these teams together, and of course, always have the vision of the executive buying, because any issue that appears on this journey will be very serious and needs to be tackled with a lot of priority, because it's a new stuff. People will talk, people will have detractors saying it doesn't work, it doesn't promise what it was on the slides, on the strategy that everyone shared. So this needs to be tackled and have this leadership by example to do it.
Something I think it was you who said, Richard, earlier on about the culture of innovation and making sure that continues. What are the blockers for that? Because the automatic assumption might be that the business will move with the pace of change and innovation. How important is it to make sure that innovation is hardwired into the strategy to keep improving your cloud offering?
Yeah, I mean, basically the negative of everything we just said. So if none of those things happen, then it's going to be quite difficult. The endorsement, like I said, needs to come really from the C-level, from the leadership, all the way down to down to the troops, kind of working within the various sort of teams within IT. So it has to, it kind of stems from that, and everybody needs to be going in that direction. Previously, some sort of reasons we used to look at and kind of why to go to cloud, and it used to be as silly as well, because the CEO said so, so we have to go to the cloud. So we had to become a lot more clever in terms of kind of how we do things, and a lot more serious in terms of how we kind of approach it. So I think it's the things to avoid are not everybody going in the same direction, but also actually having the having the empathy of I think somebody mentioned kind of enablement and skills and so on, to actually for us as a team, as an IT team, to have empathy in terms of being able to move everybody in the same direction. And to move them along the journey as well. So enablement, skills training, changing skills, because a lot of the factors around how you develop applications, how you provision applications, how you operate applications in the cloud will change from the way that that worked in the data center. So there needs to be that kind of factor as well of bringing everybody on the journey and enabling and updating the skill sets.
Samer, Andre, open that to you as well.
I can jump in. I agree with this, and in terms of innovation, I also have a strong personal opinion that is to share ideas, to identify these opportunities, and these kind of events or other events are very important to understand what is happening. In summary, the people that are pushing for this, the people that are managing and cloud leaders, they cannot be overwhelmed with business as usual issues. They need to have this strategy. They need to, as Richard was saying, to identify new opportunities and have these use cases for the cloud to be improved and to be applied. I think in terms of innovation, they need to have the space to think, the space to also to err. Some processes will not go as we expected, but to be on this layer, not being overwhelmed with the business as usual activities.
Yeah, and I completely agree with what Andre and Richard mentioned. And to add to that, I think from our experience, not having an innovation ecosystem in general is a blocker, whether you're on cloud or on-prem. I think understanding the goals. So we set out to define what are we solving for first. So if you don't know what you're targeting, what the end outcome, how that touches your customers or improves their situation, you're not going to be focused on the end outcome, and you might get out with something, but that may not be relevant. So that, I think, is an initial blocker. We actually focus all our innovations on what are announced targets our organization. So we're set out to make the future friendly together with our customers, with our partners. We want to make healthcare more affordable and accessible, to over 30 million Canadians. But also, we're starting to also take that outside. With that as a driver, whether it's TELUS Ag or TELUS Health, TELUS as a communication company, we've been able to set the focus straight, then every innovation attempt on cloud, we can see how more easy it is to be much more agile, to set out smaller outcomes that you want to reach first. The cost is not that prohibitive anymore for innovation, and that comes together nicely to set out the target and get it done in a much more agile way. The durations that used to take us to productize or to build a prototype with cloud became much more simpler, because now you don't have to develop for 6 months. You can actually go and deliver something in a few weeks and in a few days if you've got the ecosystem and your center of excellence for cloud services are sort of streamlined to support you to get to the outcome much quicker.
Okay, well, we've talked a lot about culture there, about a cloud-first mindset, and about continuing that innovation. Let's move on to, well, two of the favourite words I'm sure that will be on the top of our audience's minds, and those are governance and compliance, because let's face it, they are a huge part of what everyone is having to be considering when they're implementing cloud solutions and managing data security. What do you feel are the key considerations cloud leaders need to be thinking about when they're implementing governance and compliance into what they're doing?
I can start.
I can go first if you like.
Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
Thank you. I think one of the major sort of issues that enterprises are not really looking at very well is around data and how they actually manage their data. And this seems to be a kind of an afterthought for a number of organizations. So I think leadership really needs to ensure that there is some kind of governance and compliance around data. So again, part of that cloud operating model that I mentioned earlier, there needs to be kind of a cloud ops model as part of that as well, and somewhat independent actually, because some of the activities that you'll perform around your data are not necessarily going to be associated with with the rest of your sort of IT platforms or cloud platforms. So data is an enormous challenge, and I think leadership really needs to look at that and trying to really get to grips with a strategy, having a strategy around that. And as I said, again, this could be part of the responsibility of the CCOE. And one of the things that we do is obviously work with customers on that center of excellence to try and build that into their strategy. But having sort of some focus around data is really important. So around how you migrate, how you secure your data, how you remain compliant, how the data is actually accessed and by whom, and also things like sovereignty as well. On the continent, there's a huge focus on sort of data sovereignty. So again, with some of the solutions that we offer, we guarantee the sovereignty of customers' data. And then ultimately, it's still your responsibility to have a disaster recovery process in the cloud. So, I think that's really, again, important for leadership to look at and be able to put a strategy around your data. So that's certainly one of the, I think, challenges for doing governance and compliance.
I can add to that because, it ticked off at least 2 or 3 of the things that I think are very important, and understanding the regulatory ecosystem that you're operating in and its conditions on data, as you mentioned, and its classification and protection. I think security should be also top of mind. There's network security, there's access security, there's device security. All of those are very important to keep an eye on. And again, we look to our Cloud Center of Excellence to actually create easy guidelines and blueprints for us to follow as architecture. Access and authentication, it's very interesting to start looking at how once we start talking about moving to the cloud, how do our partners, the people we sell with, the people, their hardware is part of our ecosystem, their software services, how do they get access to our systems in a secure manner, see only what they're supposed to see? the backup and restore, disaster recovery, again, becomes a strategic thing to look at as to, how does that work with our data strategy. And of course, I think we always keep this to the last, but I think it's one of the data and cloudification gives you an easy access to use the power of AI. So having an AI strategy with regards to what you do with your data, how are you getting intelligence from it to serve your purposes and to help your customers? I think those are sort of the most important governance items that you have to keep in mind while architecting your cloud solution.
If I jump in, also, and picking up this part of the last one, how the data is being consumed. Nowadays, we are very hungry for data. What to do with it? It has a lot of information. It has a lot of potential. With the need, when we are hungry for data, we need to make sure that the data is secured. A lot of models that we use and things that we need to be blended and needs to be anonymized. But also in terms of data security, it's something, and the disaster recovery is something that is always on top of our mind when implementing the cloud solution and doing this migration. The thing is that this is secure. There is different type of regulatory. In Europe, there is a very strong regulatory in terms of data, and I think Richard knows about this. And in some countries in Europe, they are even more strict. For some sectors, we understand, and this needs to be done for the telecom, because everyone has the smartphone. Our lives are in the smartphone, needs to be controlled. But also, we need the CCOE to understand how to navigate on this and how to be compliant, how to have the architecture, and don't be blocked the innovation in terms of this regulatory. But in summarize, we are hungry for data. It's a time that we need to be focused on it, because some issues can appear on this consumption of the data. On the other hand, we need to continue the architecture and the security of it. And we are seeing some issues in some countries too that are applying.
And I know one subject I was particularly keen to speak to you all about today was about scalability. For you, how can cloud leadership help organisations address issues with scalability and improving their systems, developing their systems? What sort of challenges do you see there for cloud leaders when it comes to scalability?
It's an interesting topic, because if you're not aware of the benefits, it's hard to commit to using cloud. So the elasticity and the pay-as-you-grow, the benefits of embracing microservices or containerization for your applications, I think they come with experiencing it. And I think so, again, once you get over the mindset, the benefits and the outcomes of it hit the bottom line of your business and your product strategy directly, because instead of having to build infrastructure for a forecasted number of subscribers, now with cloud you can have that expand seamlessly without you having to sit there and pay upfront costs. So it becomes easy to consume services, becomes the cost is not a deterrent anymore. And then, of course, the auto scaling is an additional advantage, because at peaks, for example, during Black Friday events or any of the high network consumption, that elasticity, once it's architected correctly, comes to you with advantages, resiliency, your network stability, and helps you get over a lot of those. So I think once you decide you're going to do it, the benefits are a lot more. But from a scalability specific, the pay-as-you-go models and the elasticity, I think, are the two. Once you understand that those benefits and you account for them in your business cases, will prepare you to do a lot more faster.
Yeah, if I can come in, I think my opinion is that the early stages of, or the earlier stages, I should say, of migration are into cloud that really give you that level of scalability. You're kind of still lifting and shifting your workloads. The application code is not really necessarily aware of its environment, or it's not doing anything different from what it was doing in the data center. So when it actually comes to scalability of the business, which is effectively means the services, which in turn effectively means the applications that you're running, you really need to kind of move up the stages of your migration journey, and sometimes organizations can achieve that straight away. Sometimes it's not possible to do that, especially if they have more heritage systems that they need to bring in from the data center and so on. But certainly that should be the goal, and that should be again part of that roadmap that I mentioned earlier with the with the Cloud Center of Excellence sort of driving that. So the refactoring of applications, writing them, rewriting them, and redesigning them in a cloud-native way allows you to take advantage of those enormous scalable functions and capabilities in a public cloud environment, and that also allows you to be much more responsive to the business, to cater for the demands of the business. During maybe times when there's a lot of demand for your services, for example, and things like that. That allows certainly the services and the applications to scale, much more easily in a much more flexible way. But it also allows the business to be able to expand as well. So using things like infrastructure as code and various other types of cloud native techniques, it allows the business to be able to stand up a whole new business environment or new business sector in a completely different region of the world that they were not really represented or they were not playing in previously, and that allows you to again respond to competition, to be able to lead in certain new markets and things like that in a much more faster way than you'd be able to do in the data center, or indeed some of the earlier stages of how you're running your applications and services in the cloud.
I totally agree with this, and picking up on scalability in terms of business. So how the cloud can make a business so dynamic and provide new kind of services. We see this, and I think we've thought about this helps a lot the business to provide new services, to be better, to have a different portfolio, to adapt to the customer's needs. The customers are more demanding nowadays. But the other part is also to pick up what Richard was saying in terms of legacy. The scalability that we see on the greenfield applications is completely different as we are seeing in the brownfield with the legacy systems. And sometimes this is the part that is frustrating. And this lift and shift of applications that we see that normally are supposed to be cloud native, they are not cloud native, and they are not going to be scalable. And this is also a big issue that I'm seeing in terms of this lift and shift. We are expecting that the applications be scalable, to have not cloud native applications and cross all the ticks, but they do not. They are architectured in a different way that make it not scalable, or even almost as a monolith. So in this part, I agree with everything. I'll just only add these 2 points, that it's different to be scalable in a brownfield because of the legacy, and the leadership of the applications need to be scalable. They need to be identified, and the architecture needs to be cloud native, real cloud native.
Now, we all know the potential of cloud technology. Our audience knows all about the potential of cloud technology, but it might not always be immediately obvious through the whole of a business. What role do we all feel that cloud leaders play in driving digital transformation within a business? Because the potential might not always be immediately obvious to the decision makers. How vital is the role of a cloud leader in that digital transformation?
If I can start on this digital transformation, and when we talk with, we are passionate by cloud. I think all the panel here, we are technical. It's the way that we communicate. We need to communicate the benefits. We don't selling the cloud. The cloud is a technology, is a tool to achieve an end, and there is needs to be this bridge to explain internally what is going to be the benefits. In benefits internally, operational benefits in a company, but also a new business opportunity that you can sell. Celfocus has the same. We sell cloud services to our clients, so this is also a business opportunity. And the issue or difficult part here is to translate our passion and technical knowledge to the benefits and explain that to within the organization and then export it to other people that are much less technical. So don't sell cloud, sell the benefits internally and to our clients.
Richard?
Yes, I was just happy to. I echo really what Andre is saying on that, and I think the way that kind of really leaders need to focus on that is, first of all, digital transformation is kind of a much larger sort of thing than just migrating applications into the cloud. So we, again, terminology-wise, we have to be kind of aware of the implications, the impact of these. But certainly, be an agent for change, be an advocate for change. That's kind of one of the things to do. And as I said, kind of endorse that line that goes all the way back into IT, the CIO, the CTO, and the class center of excellence, and then also support kind of incubator teams. Experiment with new platforms. Look at radically different architectures like serverless and various other ones that are up and coming, because all of these will benefit the business from delivering a technology that will enable the business sort of needs in the future. And the other one is, of course, is to grant if you have the capability to grant, but certainly fight for budgets as well, because I think that's really important for people to be able to do that innovation, to go on those courses, to retrain, and also to look at, as I said, sort of the incubator teams to look at experimenting as well with new technologies. So all of that and a whole host of other things, I think, is really what cloud leaders should be doing, and then not forgetting one of the core things that they should be doing, which is translating the technology into a business advantage. What does this mean, and how can I project this to the board as well?
Yeah, just to maybe top up, I think I completely agreed. We've started actually two departments, one on the technology side and one on the business side, that focus on emerging technologies. One of the first projects a few years ago that we started is what we call incubation or innovation hubs. And the idea there is to promote the adoption of the methodology and the architecture of cloud computing. On one side, we're giving our own people the training and the capabilities, the tools to manage that journey, but we also want to make sure that they're tailored towards fixing real customer problems. And so through those innovation hubs, we actually exercise the benefits of getting a challenge from a customer, going and seeking not only our own teams, but also partner teams to put together a solution that we go and prototype it really quickly, and then within weeks we're able to demonstrate the benefits of that solution that's co-developed with our customers and partners. And again, if you follow the cloud architecture, then you're able to get something out there that really shows the benefits and drives the digital transformation sort of need across not only internal teams and mindsets, but also our customers' mindsets and their own teams.
Well, we've covered an awful lot of ground here today. I think we'll just cover off some of the bits we've gone through. So we've been talking about the culture, the cloud-first mindset, and fostering a culture of cloud adoption and innovation. We've been talking about governance and compliance, and also managing data security. We've also looked at scalability as well. That was particularly useful, and the role that cloud leadership plays in digital transformation. And I believe it was Richard, you said there, really translating the tech into business advantage. I think that sums things up very nicely. Well, I think that'd be a good place for us to round up. I think we've covered off a tremendous amount of ground. I thank you all for your time very, very much indeed. We've got through plenty of different subjects, so thank you very much indeed for joining us at Cloud and 5G Live today.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you ever so much indeed.